Welcome everyone to the Recursive podcast, the place where you can meet the leaders of the innovation communities here in Southeast Europe. Our next guest is a Frenchman who chose to run a business here in Bulgaria 15 years ago. Xavier Marcenac is currently also the co-founder of Nasekomo, a biotech startup converting organic waste into high-value animal protein through the use of insects. Before that, he co-founded several successful companies in the BPO industry. He is still the vice chairman of one of them, TELUS International Europe, a company that is a leader in BPO services in Europe with close to 5,000 employees, mostly based in Bulgaria and Romania at this point. Xavier graduated as an IT engineer and holds an MBA degree from INSEAD and is a passionate runner, a hiker, and a big fan of the Rhodope Mountains. Welcome, Xavier.
Thank you very much. Very good introduction.
Thank you very much. Very impressive biography, I must say, and a resume. You've been around.
I've been around, I'm not that young anymore. So
yes, you had a lot of opportunities with education, I can only imagine. And still you chose to spend your life mostly in Bulgaria.
That's true, yeah.
Why so?
It's a long story.
I can only guess, yeah. But back then in the 90s?
Yeah, actually, I first came in Bulgaria about 30 years ago.
Oh, okay.
A few days, I think it was the 11th of November, 91.
You remember the exact date?
I remember the exact date because I did my French military service in Bulgaria. We had military obligation at that time, and you can apply to a special program which would send you to work for a French company or French organization abroad. It's what I did, and I was offered to come to work for the French embassy in Sofia back in 91.
Mm-hmm.
So my first discovery visit was on the 11th of November, because I remember I was working in Paris, and 11th of November is a bank holiday in France, so I could take one day off and come here for a couple of days. And then I settled down here back in March 1912.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked about 2 years for the French embassy, and as an IT engineer and in charge of all the IT system of the French embassy. And after that, I decided, well, I find that's a great opportunity to be in Bulgaria. I had learned Bulgarian, and I thought, well, it's a country where everything will change. So why should I go back to France, where things are moving very slowly? While in Bulgaria, everything is to be built. So I decided to stay here for some time. Was very young. I was like 23.
Mm-hmm.
Look at trying to start some business with friends, but I had absolutely zero experience. And I ended up working for Coopers & Lybrand, which was to become PricewaterhouseCoopers, the audit company later on. They were opening an office here in Sofia. At this time, there was lots of privatization work going on, lots of foreign investors coming. Though the office was 5 people when I joined the company.
Mm-hmm.
And when I left 4 years later, it was 80 people. So it was a huge learning curve for me. I've been involved in many transactions, helping foreign investors settling in Bulgaria, reviewing all the financial information of the company, doing financial audits of banks, insurance, manufacturing companies, but also building a team around the core management team that we were at this time in Coopers & Lybrand until 98.
I can only imagine how
Maybe
insightful.
you were not born.
Not true. I was actually born. I wasn't that old, so that I can understand what privatization meant or what democracy meant, and all these things. This is things that I'm explaining to myself now, studying the history. And it's for me very exciting to have someone who has been observing that, but also from the lens of, someone who came from abroad, who is coming from an already developed country. But I also want to make another mark that, is it very typical for the entrepreneurial mindset. So you go to a place, and back then Bulgaria was still, in its infancy when it comes to internationalization and business and, all these things that we see now here. And you just see opportunities, and you just see, hey, there is something that I can do, and it will develop so fast, and it will be much more exciting if I have to do it than if I have to do it in France. So this is, something that I see again and again in entrepreneurs. And in this sense, I can only guess that this entrepreneurial spirit is something that you've been, I wouldn't say maybe born with, but you had it from obviously a very early age.
Yeah, I don't know where it comes from, but maybe my father, he was not an entrepreneur. He was working himself a big audit company, but he told me story about his customers, his friends. So that's things that come into your mind for sure. But yeah, it's interesting because after I started to be an entrepreneur here, and I decided to join a big international company. Give you some security, actually, in terms of a salary, a career path, training. I then, decided in '98 that I wanted to do something else and go out of Bulgaria.
Okay.
And I went to live in London for a few years. I first worked for a big international American company involved in air conditioning system, lift system, etc. The Otis and UTC group for about a year, and then I joined Ernst & Young, another audit company, and I worked in their internet and telecommunication group back in was 1999 to 2001. It was very interesting because it was a time where all the IPOs of all the internet were the first internet bubble.
So, I was just about to ask you, what was the next big thing back then?
Yeah, everything was internet bubbles, and we were supporting lots of startups raising funds, going on to IPO, and very exciting times, a lot of work. But then we see just the bubble explode, and it was somehow a good time and a good decision I had made to go and do my MBA at this time, back in 2001. So I went to INSEAD. Was very lucky to get into INSEAD, and my wife was also accepted at the same time. So we were one of the few couples which were at the same time INSEAD. Was I would say difficult from the financial point of view because you have to support to spend. It's expensive education and you don't have any salary. But it was a life-changing experience, I would say. We met so many people from all around the world, so many entrepreneurs, so many friends that we see on and off as much as we can. So that was 2001, and when I would say, if you remember 2001, we have the bombing in New York.
Oh, I remember these days. My brother was back then living in London, and we found out about the news at a bit later stage. So he actually called my mom, and he said, "I just wanted to tell you that I'm okay." And she was like, "Why are you telling me this?" And then we found out what happened. How was it actually back then in London for you?
So I was at INSEAD at this time, and it was extremely difficult because we had people from all over the world. They were just watching TV, and everybody has relatives in New York, in the US, and it was a terrible time for the people, and it was a terrible time for the students because suddenly nobody was recruiting anyone. And when you go to a business school like INSEAD, usually you have 10 job offers when you finish. And you have to choose, and this is why people are going to a well-renowned place. But this year, half of the people didn't have any job at the end of the business school. Was lucky to find something, and my wife as well, because we had maybe more experience, and we decided to go for industry, not consulting or banking.
Okay.
And so we started to work in a company in the environmental area, a German company, manufacturing all the bins you see in the streets.
Okay.
And they were manufacturing and managing, etc. And I worked with them for a couple of years. And actually, the entrepreneurial spirit came back at this time because this company was a family-owned company. It was growing very fast. And I said, wow, this guy, they're normal people and they manage to do everything and grow business. It's 100 million euros and they raise finance. So maybe I can do it myself. So after some time, I decided, well, I want to do my own business. And so I left in 2003. And I started the first company in Bulgaria because I saw opportunity. I have lots of Bulgarian friends. I was coming here very often. So I came back to Bulgaria
Okay, that's an interesting. So London, Germany, but then you decide to found a company here in Sofia. What year was that back then?
2003.
2003.
My wife told me I'm mad because all the Bulgarians want to leave the country and I'm the only one that want to come in Bulgaria.
I hear that very often. I heard it also myself. I moved back to Bulgaria after 11 years in Austria, I think like 3 years ago. And they were still telling me that I'm mad. And why am I doing this? Like, okay. So out of madness, you ended up in Bulgaria, founding a company with your wife.
The first one was not.
Okay, it wasn't. Okay.
And there's a company involved in data management, archiving, document management.
Okay.
And it's been a successful company in Bulgaria. And we sold it 3 years ago to Iron Mountain, which is the world leader in document management.
Mm-hmm.
But it was not a very big business. And then in 2004, we founded CorePoint, which was a BPO company, together with first Philippe Ugrinov. He was a friend from the Coopers and Lybrand area. And then my wife joined us very quickly because we needed someone to organize ourselves. Two men, we are not doing the selling, but we need someone doing the operations. And so the three of us, we started to build a business from 2004 onwards. It's been an extremely successful story.
Mm-hmm.
We went through difficult times. We were one of the first BPO in Bulgaria, 2004. There was a couple of other guys trying to do something, but they never really managed to grow to a significant size. And I think one of the key success factors for us was that we knew nothing about the business. So we came here and we decided to do something the way we thought it would be. I mean, we're talking about, the first operation, BPR, call center operation, customer support, telesales, these kind of activities. And we found out that the way it was done, it was very amateurish and not very well organized in general terms and not very processed. So we decided to put lots of process, lots of procedures, lots of tools, and to manage the team very nicely. I mean, like, empowering the team on one hand, but on the other hand, controlling the KPIs. Now, when you talk about that, it's quite normal. But 20 years or 18 years ago, it was not working like this for most players. So we start to have some success. We work for Austrian company. That was our first customer.
Mm-hmm.
And our idea was Bulgaria has a lot of potential as a multilingual platform, because there's a lot of people that speaking very well foreign languages. And as soon as they learn a foreign language, they leave the country to go and work abroad. So that's very stupid. So we can offer to these people nicely paid job in Bulgaria. And that's what we started to do. And the company started to grow, I think, very, very quickly. 2006, we raised some finance from a local venture fund. And 2007, we decided to open a branch in Romania with our colleagues Gregoire and Jan. And the company has been growing from 0 to about 800 people in 2011-12. 2011, we attracted the EBRD as a shareholder.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of the first equity investment that the EBRD was doing in Bulgaria ever in this kind of sector.
I'm not even sure that they actually have this policy at all. Jumping as a shareholder, that's actually kind of, like an exemption, right? No.
Well, they do equity investment, but they do in big companies, in manufacturing, but they wanted to do something in the high-tech sector. So this is why they...
How did you manage to convince them? What was actually so special about CorePoint at this point?
Well, I think they thought that we are creating a lot of jobs.
Mm-hmm.
We were like honest employer, we're paying all the taxes, etc. We're attracting talent. And we were attracting lots of foreign companies to come and discover Bulgaria. And I think that's, one of the success about the BPO industry, that when you start to have the first company, big client was Europcar, the rent-car company.
Yes.
And when they were doing a tender, they were, choosing between us and some company North Africa or Spain as partners, and they decided to partner with us. Why? Many reasons. First, because we had a good proposition in terms of financial quality, etc. And then we established a trust relationship because, well, the manager were French, we were French, so we had, these kind of things were working, and we had the people like EBRD as investors. So they say, okay, that's very serious people.
Yeah, it's actually very impressive to win such kind of partners and also shareholders at this point. I must admit, at some point, I tried it, to establish a company in Austria that was supposed to take care of expats moving to Austria. And at this point, I was looking at the migration waves happening within the European Union because I was targeting mostly European citizens. And when I saw the brain drain that is happening at this point around, at the same time in Bulgaria and in Romania, I was very saddened. And then at some point I thought I should be doing the opposite. I shouldn't be welcoming, Bulgarians and Romanians here in Austria. Maybe it's a nice business, but I'm basically, working against the future of my home country. So I was, listening to your story. I was actually inspired because you found a way to basically revert this brain
exactly. So
drain that was happening.
What we did, because as the business was growing, we suddenly find out that there was not enough resources in Bulgaria for us as TELUS. We started to rebrand the company in 2012 when TELUS became a shareholder, TELUS International. TELUS is a huge Canadian company, and they were looking to build a network of BPO operators around the world. They were in South America, they were in the Philippines, and they wanted a European partner. This is why we met and we decided to partner.
Okay.
And very quickly, we had more and more international customers, Amazon, Google, etc. That want not 5 people speaking French, 5 people speaking German, but 50 German, 50 Swedish speakers, etc. Because we are creating hubs, and that one hub in Ireland, and now we want to have in Sofia. So can you help? Can you do it? And we were looking for people, and it was more and more difficult to recruit talent. And there were more and more competition. 10 years had passed, and there are lots of new players, new entrants in the market. So we said, well, what's the first thing we can do? And we said, well, let's try to bring foreigners to come to Sofia. Because if you go in a hub like Ireland, there's many foreigners working for BPO industry in Ireland, in the blend. So we started to recruit foreigners. We hired agency, and we scouted people from all over Europe to come here. And the very first were difficult, Obviously, people were Bulgaria.
I can only guess that it still is difficult.
Yeah. So quickly we found out, people from the Nordic country were quite easy to bring here because it's a sunny, it's warm. So people from Norway or Sweden, etc. Even if the salary and the condition, but they some liked it. People from Germany, it was almost impossible. German would never come here. People from Latin country, France, Spain, Italy, Portugal were also quite easy to come because they find it quite similar here, I would say, in the way of living, the Mediterranean, the coffee cultures, etc. So that was the first wave of trying to bring people here to support our growing operation. It was 2012 to 2016 maybe, and that has been very successful. And I think in the TELUS operation in Sofia now, maybe 25% of our foreigners people is 1,000 people. So we brought 1,000 people to live and work in Sofia.
Wow.
That's a lot.
That's actually a lot. Yeah. For, a condition where people would say, for you, to you as a French, are you mad to go to Bulgaria? Yeah. So you found 1,000 more mad people who decided to move.
Well, they were young people. They wanted to be open. They were open. Then we found out that there's lots of people now, like digital nomads. They travel around and they move from one job to the other one. So the guy was in a BPO center in Dublin, and then he was in Palma, and then he was in Stockholm, and then he came to Sofia. Well, 1 year here, 1 year there, etc.
Was it difficult to retain them? Okay, bringing them here is one thing, but retaining them?
Yeah, I think retaining is a challenge, but we find that there were 2 kinds of people: the one that will never leave, and the one that will leave quite quickly. And the good thing, lots of
what do they have? How do they differ? Did you find out at some point? Something in the philosophy, probably.
We try to develop an AI-based tool to scan the CV before we invite it and say, in fact, what are the common parameters? Well, there were some, but it's very difficult to tell. I think it's also how you integrate them. So you have people that left after 1 week, and that was a huge disappointment. A recruitment cost, paying flats, paying flights, etc. And they were in the period they could leave, and they say, "Oh, it's not for me." They were scared. I guess they were scared by the country. They come here, they think that we like it, and then they are scared and they leave. So, wow, that was. Some other people, enjoyed it so much. They stayed here, they're married, they have kids, etc. So we have, I suppose, both things. And we have people in the middle, they stay for 1 year or 2 years. They decide they come here 1 year, then they go to the next place. To come back to the story of recruiting talent, the next thing we did was say, let's try to bring Bulgarian back in Bulgaria, because as you say, the brain drain is huge. And we say, well, if you are Bulgarian and you're living 50 kilometers from London and you work as a mechanic or as a waiter, and you cannot even pay your bills, and you take 2 hours a day the metro to go somewhere and 2 hours to go back, do you enjoy your life? So we try to do like focus group, talking to people, saying, if you come to work for us, you'll have almost the same salary as you get in London, with a different category. You work in an office, you meet lots of people, we train you, we give you a career potential, and you'll be close to your family. And we set up a program which was called Mogatam Iskamtuk.
Okay.
And we launched this program, I think, in 2017. It's still ongoing, and we're giving people special bonuses if they come back, like a sign-on bonus and thing. And it has been pretty successful at the beginning. People say, "Hey, what is this?" etc. But now I see that every month there's a few tens of people that on the program coming back abroad and working here. And I think it's a huge, interesting idea. I spoke to Christo from Tuktam as well. Say, how can we collaborate on that? So we'll be copying him with our Mogatam Iskamtuk. But we have a bit of different business idea and model, but we all going to the same direction, bring people back here, because I think if you want to change this country and make this country jump from the 19th century to the 21st, you need young, educated people to take responsibility, to develop business, to take the best thing from abroad and adapt to the best thing from Bulgaria, and together make good things.
You're actually making another connection to my next question, which I actually wanted to ask at a later point, because there's still, a couple of things that we maybe should put in between, but I'm going to start it from here. So what I observe in most of the, global innovation hubs like Silicon Valley and Tel Aviv or Singapore, they are a magnet for talent from all over the world. So they kind of, bring the best brains from everywhere to them and engage them in this innovation ecosystem, working for startups, for, tech leaders and so on and so forth. What can we learn from your experience at TELUS of, how to bring this talent? And I'm here speaking not only bringing back Bulgarians, because I believe that Bulgarians, just like, the foreigners in Sofia, they choose a place to live and spend their life also depending on their lifestyle, where their life partner is, where their kids are. And I also must admit that sometimes maybe staying in the diaspora could help the ecosystem and the economy more than if you come back, because you have built your connections. But what can we learn about attracting expats and maybe also people with non-Bulgarian background to Bulgaria, so that we can engage them in the innovation economy that we are trying, to build here?
It's a challenge, of course, and building an innovation hub does not happen in a few weeks. It takes years, as you know.
Of course.
And to do that, you need first to have a strong support from government. If government is not supporting building of an innovation hub, you'll never succeed. You can do whatever you want. And I can tell a lot of stories.
I think we can say that out loud now, hoping that this will change with the new parliament that we're going to be electing soon.
Yeah, let's see. But I think Bulgaria has the capacity to build such innovation hub because it can attract people. It can offer very good quality of life. And that's one of the important things for people. It's a good location. It's lots of nature. And I think you can have a very good quality of life here. I think Bulgaria has been very good at releasing the European money, which were used for launching the first fund, Launcher and 11 a few years ago.
Yes.
And they were much better than Romania, for example, in doing that. And that helped to start an ecosystem, having lots of startups, then bringing more and more funds to the region. And all these guys, they're doing a great job. They're creating funds. They're trying to make regional VC, private equity fund that can invest in the region and so far, creating teams here. So that's a very good thing. But you need to invest in research and development as well. And that's not the fund that will invest, it's the government policy. And if you look at research and development investment in Bulgaria compared to other European countries, I can give you the statistic. 0.2% of GDP is invested in research and development in Bulgaria, 8% in Norway. You can just, and the GDP in Norway is not the GDP in Bulgaria.
Yeah, I can only,
I've seen some government officials saying how we're going to double the investment in R&D in Bulgaria. That's great, but that will be from 0 to 0.4%. You not double, you need to make it 20 times more. When you make it 20 times more, you'll be able to retain the talent in the Bulgarian university, in the Bulgarian Research Institute, and stop the brain drain, because the worst thing that happens is we train people. We have lots of smart people. They go to the big, nicest school in Bulgaria, to CMG, to whatever, and then they go abroad and they never come back.
Mm-hmm.
And we see the same in France, actually. Even a rich country like France, they're saying that there's not enough money going into research and development at the government level, even if it's 5% of GDP. And people in university, the top guy, they go in the US or in Germany or in the UK because they get lots of grants to carry on their research.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a huge problem, and the country will not evolve until we really start to invest seriously in this R&D at the government institutional level to retain talent, to retain people, and build some hubs. I think that's the first thing. The second thing, I believe that Bulgaria cannot do everything. So if you want to build some hub, to build an ecosystem on innovation, you have to select some areas where you think that you have an advantage, where you think you can differentiate yourself from the other guys.
Okay. Could you, from your perspective, maybe point out where do you believe we have the most potential?
So the first thing that comes to mind, there's lots of very good IT industry in Bulgaria. So everything which is around, I think, AI,
Mm-hmm.
machine learning, anything about IoT, I think could be developed as hub. But keep in mind, there's lots of competition because all around the world there's similar hubs. That's one thing. The second thing that comes to mind is is linked to my new business, Nasekomo. It's biotechnologies. I think there's almost nothing in biotechnologies here. Why not try to create a hub about biotechnology? There are very good scientists also in the country, and there's potential. And biotechnology is a very wide sector, so you can select, some segment. That's
actually an interesting perspective, because on one hand, you would say that most potential could be in a place where we have accumulated maybe most of the knowledge. And then on the other hand, there is also a different strategy where you decide to be the first mover. Mm-hmm. And I see, knowing your resume and knowing your history so far, I see you more like the first mover type of person. Yeah. You decided to found a company in biotechnologies in Bulgaria.
Yeah.
I can only guess, not knowing much about the business before you started it. Yeah. Learning on the way.
Yeah. I'm like a second mover.
Yeah. Second mover, yes.
No, but why I went into this business, I'll tell you. When we started to exit from the TELUS business back in 2016, 2017, I told TELUS, I want to do something different. I have a wonderful person that will be the general manager of the company. Her name is Christina. I'm sure she'll do a great job. And me and my wife, my partner, we decided that we want to explore new fields.
Before you proceed, there was something that I wanted to ask you, because I can only guess that it's kind of, difficult, especially when you've built something from scratch. So you found CoPoint Europe. It got acquired by TELUS. You grew it to this point when it was acquired to 3,000. No, how many people were
When
there?
we started, about 4,000 people.
4,000 people. How do you separate yourself from this kind of commitment from this baby? Because it took how many years of your life, and yours and your wife's. Yeah. So it was also a daily topic at home. How do you, how do you cut the ties and start something new?
It's very difficult to cut the ties. It took 13 years to get there. And as you say, we had daily meeting at home, like operativka at lunch and dinner, and it never stops during the holidays, etc. So it was our daily life for sure. But we enjoyed it, because why we wouldn't have done it? So as far as we enjoyed it, we say that's great to continue the business. In cutting the tie and decided, okay, that's it. Let's leave it to someone else. Was made easy because we had something else, another project afterwards. Mm-hmm. Cutting it without another project would have been much more difficult.
I see.
At the same time, we did not cut the tie just like this, because we continue to support the company, and we have many friends there, and we are in extremely good relationship with the TELUS people back in Canada, with the local management. So we are still friends. We are still participating in the TELUS Days of Giving, when they actually occurs. So we go to parties, etc. So I think we kept the best of the TELUS, the friendship, the relationship, and we left the work. So maybe that was the best solution.
Okay, that's unfair. Okay, I see. I wanted to also tap into another topic. So you've worked together side by side with your wife, with your life partner. And as you said, it was also a huge part of your private daily life. Mm-hmm. And after 13 years, you found the next company again with your life partner. In my personal opinion, this is like a test for a good relationship. Can you work together as well or not? Because it could be very challenging. What did you learn from this experience? And how do you make it work? There are a lot of partners, couples that I know who tried that, and it's just not working. Sometimes either the business suffers or the relationship suffers from this kind of combination. How do you make it work?
Well, actually, we started work. We met when we were working together back in 95.
Yes.
So we were working in an audit company, and that's where we met, and we started a relationship at this time. And the work was going on well, I would say. But later on, we found out that to make it work, you need to have clear responsibility. Mm-hmm. And when you have startup, you have you start being involved in many things. Something you don't know, something you know, and you kind of have an opinion in lots of things.
Sure.
Your opinion is maybe not the best most of the time. But if you in a team and you say that it's good with my life partner, but Philippe, which was the third partner in the business, we said, okay, everybody has a responsibility. Everybody has a say, and we listen to him. So in some things, I have a say, but I listen to what the guy or the girl decides, and that's it. So it's in discussion, but the decision is to one person, not mm-hmm. to the two or the three. And by would say, silosing the responsibility, we made it work. Because then we have, the other thing which is funny, and we call it like opinion shopping. So the people which are below you, they go to one, say something, they go to the second one, say something else, the third one, say something different, and then they choose what they want.
Often we believe that this is like the way we do democracy, asking everyone for their opinion and then trying, to compromise. But it's in business, it's sometimes just impossible. And please continue.
You have to no, of course you have to listen to all the people and try to compile things, but everybody has a different agenda, a different vision, and sometimes you have to take decisions that people won't like for now, but you see, they are good for the company. Maybe they're not good for you, but they're good for the company, and they're good for 1,000 people and not for one. And that happens every day, and that's very difficult. Yeah.
I can only guess that it's also very difficult to still commit to go in one direction, the leadership, the three of you, especially when you do not agree with the, opinion of those who is actually, the person who is responsible for this domain or for this type of decisions, but you still commit, right?
Yeah.
I think this is, the secret of, okay, I may not agree with you, but if we decide we're going this way, then we just do it together.
And you have to support these people, because if you start splitting
Mm-hmm.
and say, okay, I'll do that because he wants it, but I'm not really convinced. If you do that to someone else, you create doubt. If you start to create doubt in the team, it's dead.
Okay.
The team must be united very well, and you have to have a common goal, a vision, where you want to go, how you want to go there, and you have to engage everyone into this.
Mm-hmm. What was actually the most difficult decision that you had to make so far as a leader, as a co-founder, partner?
Oh, there were many difficult decisions, in almost 20 years as an entrepreneur. We face issues, lots of issues all the time. It's very difficult to highlight a single one, to be honest. Well, I mean, with Nasekomo, I told you we had some issues. At some point, we decided to, move our factory to a new location. Mm-hmm. That was heartbreaking because we spent so much time and money. But at some time, you have to say, take your losses. Mm-hmm. Like you play poker, and they say, okay, that's it. I mean, going forward will not help, so let's stop and turn right. And that was one decision. Other decision when we decided to sell the business to TELUS. So as I would say that was difficult, because we've been approached by several companies over the years, and I remember the first one that came to see us, and they put an offer on the table, and it was not a bad offer, but we look at this, okay, we're going to give you this amount of money, this and that. You sign here. Okay, well, and I was the one against it. My partners were like, okay, it's a good offer, let's take it. No, we can do much better. And after a few days, okay, we trust you, we'll do much better. And we did much better. But that was a difficult decision, because if we didn't do much better, maybe, I wouldn't be married anymore.
Yeah, this is also, the difficult part in doing business with your life partner, that bad situations, crises, bad decisions can actually cost your relationship. And I also know such stories, and they're not pleasant at all, Now, coming back to Nasekomo, you mentioned that one thing that, we still don't do properly in Bulgaria is R&D. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry. And what you're doing with Nasekomo at this point is actually pretty much dependent on R&D. Do you finance that yourself, or how do you actually build a biotech business in conditions like Bulgaria?
So we do a huge amount of R&D. Nasekomo, we are working with an insect, which is
the soldier fly.
The black soldier fly.
Black soldier fly.
It's a very nice insect. I should have bought you one. It's a fly which is absolutely not invasive, so it's not used to human. So it's not like a normal fly that comes around you.
Oh, it's not that. Okay.
It just stays in the area, and the life cycle of the fly is about 40 days, and the adult flies has a life of 8 days. And during the 8 days, what they do, they mate, and that's it. And then they die. And during this adult life, they don't eat, they don't drink, but they have no mouth. So they live on the reserve that accumulated into the earlier life as a larvae.
Oh, really?
So the good thing is, the fly is not a pest. When it goes outside, it will not attack people, not try to eat anything. It's like the crickets kind of thing you see in movies. And it's also a fly that naturally you can find all over Europe. You can find it in Bulgaria, in Romania, in Greece, been spotted at many places. Not that, and you don't see it because it's not like the other flies coming to bother you, but it exists everywhere. So it's a natural animal. You see it anywhere. What we're doing is we say, okay, from this natural animal, we know that it has extraordinary capacity to accumulate body weight very fast. So in 10 days, it can grow 10,000 times in weight, from 20 microgram to 200 milligram.
Wow.
10,000 times. And how does it grow? If it feeds on the organic products. It can feed on anything. What we are using to feed our insect are co-products from the agro industry. So, for example, if you have a brewery, you are producing beer, and when you finish producing the beer, the malt, which is the remaining, is called the spent grain. And this spent grain still has value in it. It's a cereal product. It cannot do alcohol anymore, but can use it to do something. So sometimes they feed cows or pigs with it, but sometimes they don't have the opportunity because there's no cow or pigs around, so they don't know what to do with it. And we buy it from brewers, we mix it with other ingredients, and we prepare a special recipe for the insect.
Okay.
And so what we've been doing over the last 4 years now is, on one hand, doing R&D, how do you feed best the insect? We've tested hundreds of diets, hundreds of mix, and see how fast they grow. So when you take, what's important is what we call the food conversion ratio. When you take 100 kilogram of food, what will be the weight of the larvae after 10 days? And the food conversion ratio, the lowest it is, the better. So if you can say, if 100 kilogram of food will give you 100 kilogram of larvae, that would be fantastic. That's not the case. So today the food conversion ratio is about 4. 100 kilogram of food will give you 25 kilogram of larvae. And the remaining is water evaporating, because there's water in the food, it evaporates. And what we call the insect frass, which is the remaining of the production process. And the insect frass is a high value fertilizer. It's an organic fertilizer recognized on European level. And today we use it with well-known biofarmers in Bulgaria, and that help them enhance and protect the crops much better than any other chemical fertilizer, for example.
Wow. So, and what do you produce from the flies?
From the flies.
So you have the frass, and you take out the body mass.
Just to give you an idea of the way it works, we collect the substrate. We create a substrate, which is a co-product. We put seed larvae, which is like the baby 1 day old larvae inside, and after 1 week, or 10 days, I would say, we separate the larvae from the substrate. The substrate becomes the frass, and the larvae then go through a processing. And the processing is basically you dry them, and then you press them. And from the press, you have two products. One is called the insect protein. The other one is the insect oil. And then both products today are used in animal feed. And the legislation is evolving quickly and the right direction. Since 2017, you can feed pets and fish, aquafeed. That were the two main markets. Since last month, 9th of September, you can also feed poultry and pigs with this kind of product, insect protein. So there's this huge market.
Yeah.
And the idea that the insect protein brings a lot of sustainability benefits compared to product it's replacing. So insect protein is replacing fish meal, for example. So fish meal is the small fish that you capture off the coast of Peru. You make it a flour, you bring it to Europe. In 20 years, there won't be any more fish in the ocean if you put it this way. So we are protecting the ocean in this way, and by reducing the consumption of fish meal. The other kind of protein that is used in animal feed is soya. And soya is planted mostly in Brazil. It's imported in Europe. You cut trees, plant soya, export to Europe. Europe is dependent, and you have deforestation. So again, we are on the sustainability thing. We are replacing these kind of products. So we have lots of sustainability benefits for our products, but not only, we have also functional benefits. And that's where the R&D bits comes in, because there's a lot of R&D currently being carried on why is it so beneficial for animal to eat black soldier fly flour, for example, or protein. And we find out there are antibiotics in the black soldier fly.
Antibiotics, okay.
So, there's lots of resistance to antibiotics by human beings, more and more. And that's a huge problem because we cannot find new antibiotics to cure people. And there we find there's antibiotics in this. So we need a lot of research, how to extract it and what are the protection, what it brings to the table. But what we know is that there's lots of studies when you feed dogs, for example, with insect-based product, dog food, they stop to be allergic to the food. So they have anti-allergenic properties in things. Some see that the fur is getting much nicer.
Are there any downsides?
Well, we didn't find them.
Okay.
No, I don't think they should be done. And eating insects for animals is very natural.
Yes.
If you remember 50 years ago, while the chicken, they were eating insects in the backyard. Before you start to give them soya from Brazil, they were eating insect. The pigs, you look at the pigs in the field, they go and they look for insects. The dogs, the same.
For some people also, some human, but not in our parts of the world.
Not yet.
Actually, that was very funny because just recently at the Recursive, we wrote, I think, an article about Nasekomo and others in the field. And then someone commented, "I'm not going to eat flies."
Indeed, yeah. Well, we're not asking them to. Me neither. This is an interesting subject. If we look, long term, as we need more and more sources of protein for the planet, we need to find solutions. What are different solutions? And people looking at the plant-based protein, which is basically giving you vegetables and saying it's meat. That's my interpretation of it. But it's good that people eat more vegetables. You look at the cell-based meat, which is today, I would say, a very chemical solution, but maybe it has some future. It's not regulated yet, regulated. There's no regulation how you can use it. So it's a long shot, I would say, and very expensive. You look at insect protein, and insect protein works on two levels. You can feed insect protein to the animals that you feed the human, or you can feed directly insect protein to human as a flour. And that will happen. More and more insects get authorized under European regulation. They were not in the past. They are 3 this year. And our insect, the black soldier fly, I hope will get authorized in 2 to 3 years from now.
Wow,
it's
so
a very regulated process. There's years and years of studies, hundreds of scientific people involved and studies being done before something is authorized in Europe. It's not like I decide, I do it now. Doesn't work like this. Our company is heavily regulated. Every month we have at least 2 times control from the local authorities. Ooh. They come to see how we feed insects, how we look after them, how we process the insect, how we label the products, etc., etc., etc. We are under permanent control. And
is that typical for your industry?
I think the food and feed industry, yes, is under control. Maybe we are under special control because it's a new industry and people, I wouldn't say are scared, but they are wondering what's happening, what we're doing, etc.
Maybe they're just curious. They want to visit you more often.
Yeah. I mean, everybody that comes to see what we're doing thinks it's fantastic. So never seen anyone say, well, people don't like insects, etc. But when they understand what we're doing, etc., that's real innovation. That's what we want to do, to see more in Bulgaria, a company like yours.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I also wonder something else. At what point did you develop this attitude for environmental products and, businesses who actually think cradle to cradle? Because you are now creating a business like that. We have almost no waste, yeah?
We have no waste. We're in the circular economy. Yeah. And what we are selling is that, we are collecting some product with low value, which could become waste. Or I don't think we collect waste because today it's not authorized to use waste. So we use what we call pre-consumer waste. That's what's authorized in the European regulation. It's a product, for example, as I mentioned, from the agro industry, or it could be leftover or unsold product from supermarkets. That's this kind of thing we are authorized to use. And with this pre-consumer waste product, we make a mix, we raise the insect, etc. And then we have 3 products that are all used into feed, to feed the animal or to feed the plant, and we have 0 waste. Mm-hmm. The only waste is water evaporating, and that's it. And then the idea that when we feed the plant with our, organic fertilizer, it goes back into the soil regeneration, grows the plants, the barley, for example, go to the brewery, produce the beer, get the spent grain, and we start again and again and again. And that's, the magic of what we are doing is this circular economy and making a never-ending circle.
Yes. As I was doing my research, there was also something else that struck me, that you're also thinking about putting the plants, or I don't know how you actually, the factories close to those who are going, to use the byproducts of, do you call it byproducts,
So what we're looking at doing is indeed, reduce the CO2 footprint. And to do that, we say, well, we don't need to transport any kind of co-product from agro-industry for hundreds of kilometers to bring in the factory to process. Yeah. We are bringing the factory close to the source of co-products.
To the source of the co-products. Yeah. Okay, I see.
So pretty much the model is that we're developing, we call it a hub and spoke model. We have a central hub where we are doing the reproduction of the black soldier flies. Okay. So producing billions of seed larvae, baby larvae. And then we ship these seed larvae to the spokes, and the spoke is called a bioconversion center. In the bioconversion center, you have the simplest process, which is taking the substrate, mixing with the seed larvae, and getting the ready larvae.
Okay.
And then the ready larvae, depending on the size of the bioconversion center, you either process them on the site, or you collect them back into a second hub to process them. There's economies of scale.
How fast can you actually, establish a bioconversion center? Yeah.
Well, it's manufacturing entity. So if you start from scratch, with the permitting, building, exercise, about a 2 years project.
Okay.
But we are working on, developing a more flexible technology, which can be adapted and implemented much faster. So in the next couple of years, we'll be able to provide like a turnkey solution. Because our vision is really, there's lots of people with co-product waste streams and they don't really know what to do with it. And they go to burn it or put it in the landfill, which is a huge waste. So we go to these guys, say, okay, here the solution. It's a turnkey solution. It's a black box. You put your input there. We send you the small larvae there, arrive, everything is automated.
Yes.
And you get the final product.
Wow.
And it's, like insect as a service, you can call it whatever, but it's we need a turnkey solution. And our teams will be in charge of delivering the seed larvae, but also controlling, monitoring everything which is happening into this automated factory. So this is why we're building an IoT platform. We are, looking to recruit guys with data intelligence that can extract the data, do machine learning and feedback information, which will be like, increase the temperature, lower the temperature, add water, etc.
I hope some of them will be now listening to us.
I hope so. Yeah. So send me your CV.
Okay. Do you see that also as a B2C type of thing? Like, can I produce also at home? Or help you produce in a way? I mean, this is, of course, pretty much in the future, but...
I don't think it will be B2C, but it will be maybe maybe go to smaller size. So, for example, we recently had discussion with a very large retail chain of shops, international one, and what they're looking to do is to use the black solar fly to recycle all their own waste. And so they want to say, can you design a solution which can put close to each shop, basically, or big shop, so that we don't need to carry things around.
That's actually a huge problem. I mean, there's been a statistics that 1/3 of the products in a supermarket just, go to waste because of, expiration dates. Exactly. So it's one of the biggest producers actually of food waste.
1/3 of all the food produced in the world goes to waste.
Yeah.
So it's 1/3 in the shops, but it's 1/3 everywhere. And we say that we need more food to feed more people, but let's try to use the food that we produce. 1/3 is huge.
Yeah.
It's, I think, 1 trillion tons per year of food waste on the planet. Imagine of people dying, they cannot, and we are wasting things every day.
It's one of the big injustices that I always get frustrated when I think about it. But you found a solution that has actually huge potential.
Yeah.
And it pretty much depends on R&D and so processes, from what I hear.
You were asking earlier about financing. We finance all that. So we finance. We have lots of private investors.
Okay.
That are, believe in what we are doing, believe in the team, believe in the vision that we are showing them. We have investment funds. Actually, 2 Bulgarian investment funds, Morningside Hill Capital and New Vision 3. We have industrials.
Yeah.
Even in Bulgaria, we have industrials that are supporting us because they believe that's the right thing to do. And then we look after obtaining some grants. So this is quite complicated because people say, you should have European grants, etc. But getting European grants, a big one, is very complex. There's huge competition. There's a program called Horizon 2020. Now it's 30, I think.
I hope that anyone who's listening knows about this program.
Yeah, it's a program, but there's like every quarter you can apply, and there's 4,000 companies applying, and then 40 will be financed.
And it takes a lot of resources to prepare actually the paperwork for it. So for a business, I think it's at least one person full-time employed, only to do...
We have one person doing only that for us. And then we work with consulting companies which are specialized and helping. Okay. We were told when you come from Bulgaria, your file is looked with some kind of suspicion from time to time.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's very disappointing.
Because what I hear from, leaders in the European community is that we Bulgarians do not apply enough, that we should actually have more applications and
Yeah, but I think you have a very difference between what the top guys are doing and the guy who are reviewing and assessing the files are doing. I was told very directly that if you want to apply for a significant European funding, like as a consortium of companies, you should never apply as a Bulgarian leading company because the guy has a bad reputation. Why, I don't know, but that was people saying. And now what we're doing, we're applying with other companies from other countries, apparently have better reputation.
I see. Okay. Yeah.
And that's a start with, and that can be changed. We need good examples, and this will happen.
Good examples like you. There is so much more that I want to ask you, and I'm, now at this point a bit pissed that we don't have much more time. There is so much that also I, as a business leader, can learn from you. So I hope that we'll meet at some point again. But sure, yeah, I would say maybe we should come to an end. And at the end, I always have this question, which, I think it shows, or that it exemplifies the mindset that we're looking for here in the podcast. And this is the entrepreneurial mindset, the mindset who is always ready to grow and interested in innovation and curious about the future, ready to build the future with others. So the question is, what do you want to be remembered for?
A tough question. Huh?
It is.
I'm not a politician, so
no,
not for changing things.
I read in an interview somewhere that you're someone who is very good at developing long-term vision. This is why I thought that maybe this question won't be that difficult for you.
Yeah. Well, let me think a little bit. For me, important. I want to be remembered as a good person, person with a good ethics. That's very important for me in all my business. Ethics is number one. If you don't respect ethics, you can't do business. And a lot of experience with very good people and with very bad people. So that's something for me is important. I want my kids to be proud of what I am and my wife we are doing together in terms of building businesses. And as you said, as an entrepreneur, I think people will remember me as someone that is taking risk and is succeeded in what he's building, has an ambitious plan, and make them a reality. Whether I'll succeed, I don't know.
I could say that you've done a pretty good job so far. Thank you. Thank you for being with us here.
It was a pleasure.
Looking forward to the next meeting again.
Okay. Bye-bye.
In the next episode of the Recursive podcast, Georgi talks to the designer turned entrepreneur Girgana Stancheva. She co-founded Lamom, a startup producing biodegradable laminating film for print and packaging.
Because that's been, especially in the beginning, that was a constant issue. We were always like, we'll be done in like a few more months and we'll be out on the market. And it's like, no, you're actually developing a new product. You need physical time to try things. Fail and then try new things and fail some more and then figure out this actual product and how to do it.
And if you are just as passionate about innovation as we are, hit subscribe for the Recursive podcast on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform. We're everywhere.